Okay, so thanks everybody for coming. You're all very welcome. It's lovely to see so many familiar faces and to be looking forward to such a positive event in the future that we might actually get to and realize. So thanks so much for giving me your time this time of the evening. It's a record attendance at one of these sessions with 79 participants. At some point we'll end up on this information evening. So we also have the privilege of having John Orr in the room. He is one of our guides well, not our guides, he's a guide himself, but we often have John working on the meets with us, and he's kindly come in to help answer some of the questions as well and bring his expertise to all of this session. So you're very welcome, John. The session, there'll be a presentation. I try and get through that fairly quickly. You're welcome to share that presentation. I'll put an email out after this so I can send that on to you. So don't be worrying to jot down too much of that. It'll be there. And I'll get through that fairly quickly to give us some time for Q&A afterwards as well. So I hope to have this all finished out in an hour, so about 8:10 at this rate. And if you need to leave early, that's totally fine. If you need to run out for a comfort stop of any kind, that's totally fine as well. I won't be offended. We're all at home, so behave that way. It's nice and comfortable this evening. So I'm just going to share the screen now and pull up that presentation that is there to use, and we shall crack on. And I'll ask you again, can you hear the background noise in my house? Be honest now, because I can sort it out if it's bothering people.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
I have 3 teenagers. I can hear it heating up. So. Okay, so I was desperately keen to find lovely photographs. So this year and last year, we planned last year and planned this year to go back to Switzerland, to Sasgrund. I've been there whilst working for Mountaineering Island once before, and it's an absolute superb place to go. Those of you that have been there before will, I'm sure, vouch for that. It changes each venue that you go to when you go to the Alps. Kind of dictates a little bit as to what you might get done while you're away at the meet, because of the conditions of the place, the facilities, the proximity. You may get more climbing done in some places, more trekking or walking, and so on, depending on what's on offer there. So for me, the unique aspect of Switzerland, that's a massive selling point from my perspective, is if you are a resident in the valley, if you are camping or you're in a B&B or a hotel, you pay a daily pass of €5 and you can use all of the ski lifts to get up to a height as much as you like. And if you've ever costed a ski lift pass up for one trip, it's in and around €50 each time. So where Switzerland is more expensive to go to and to eat and so forth, you'll find yourself up at altitude very easily and regularly because of that simple pass that they have there. So it really does, I think, give you opportunity to get high and do high routes, high walks, high tracks, and so on. Okay, so Sasgrund is a big ski area close to Saas-Fee, slightly more well known. It means, though, that it brings all the facilities, the bars and the sports shops and so forth, to buy equipment, to hire equipment that you might need while you're away. So it's very accessible. There are supermarkets. The campsite is stunning. It's next to a river. It's next to a bus stop, and within walking distance via the forestry.
I didn't understand that.
Excuse me.
Who's that?
Anyway, so it just means that you can walk up and down to the town, and you can do all your shopping and your bits and pieces on foot. So those of you that are thinking of bringing cars or deciding between whether you're going to fly or whether you're going to hire a car or whether you're going to drive there, which I generally do, because I have a pile of kit that I bring. Once you're there, you can get away without a car fairly easily, because the public transport is absolutely bang on, spot on, bang on time, second to none. If it's there at 23 minutes past, it will be there at 23 minutes past. It's just incredible. So you can get to the places that you need to, because it's serviced so well with public transport. And it's the ski buses that they use in the summer, that kind of system. So you can get on, get off, and you can get to where you need to while you're there. So it's an option to fly then without having to hire a car. So some of the slides here are just beautiful pictures of people out walking. So you can see these guys spaced out. Perhaps it's a glacier that they're walking on. Perhaps they're roped together. It's quite hard to see from here. It's not out of character for people to be spaced apart at the moment, but these guys are doing it for a different reason than we all are at the moment. And that way they can move together as a group and secure each other whilst walking if someone's on a glacier and there's potentially something they can fall into. So just I'm conscious as well, the audience in the room may not be Mountaineering Island members, people just coming along to see what we do in Mountaineering Island, what's on offer as part of your membership. So I'm expecting that there'll be walkers, mountaineers, climbers, alpinists, and all various boulderers, all various combinations of things that people do in the mountains. And in so many ways, the Alps is so much more accessible than our own mountains, than our Scottish mountains in summer and winter, than England and Wales. In that the tracks and trails laid out are very clearly marked. They've got a really good network of huts where you can get food, you can stay, and these long distance, fairly high altitude or low valley walks that you can do multi-day trips and travel and see beautiful scenery every day, different valleys every day. And you can see these people in shorts, and often, if you're trekking, that's what you're walking in sunshine. It looks actually overcast for the Alps, but that's what you can expect. The ground can be quite harsh. You need good boots and kit, plenty of sun cream, sunglasses, the usual. But it's not like going to Scotland in winter. You're not going to be cold and miserable. As a general rule, you're going to be quite comfortable and in beautifully clear days. So just again, some more examples of the kind of terrain that people choose to go on. So these people are working across a glacier, where you can see the crevasses. So they're still walking, but yet they've got axes, crampons, harnesses, no helmets as far as I can see, just to allow them walk safely. So it could be, for some people, that can be quite an intimidating prospect of all that gear, and they look like climbers because they're wearing a harness. They may have a helmet on, they've got ropes out, but it's really just to support the safety aspect of traversing and walking on a glacier where you can fall through, and to allow you to walk places that you couldn't safely do maybe if you were on your own solo. So you can get into some fairly spectacular situations but still be walking and walking around and trekking, and not even not using your hands to climb, just your hands hold the axe and your feet to walk. So really it is absolutely everybody that the meet is for. And I have to say, like, I have family and they've been coming with me to the meet on and off for the last few years now. They're kind of up to they're almost all teenagers. My youngest is 12, my eldest 15. And they walk, they climb, they go to the Alps if they feel like it, and they still feel like going, all of them. It's the only thing they all like doing, and they'll all do together. That'll tell you just how, I suppose, appealing it is for families to go. A lot of people go and leave their kids back at home because they want to go do their own thing, which is fine as well. But certainly we've been trying to encourage the younger generations to come to the meet, to enjoy all of what the Alps have to offer, and to plant those seeds early before girlfriends, boyfriends, college, all of that kind of stuff gets in the way. And it's paying off dividends. I know my crew will be back there, and they love going. They look forward to it. They were devastated this year that we couldn't. So it's definitely one that it's an extremely accessible holiday for families, and your entertainment is made. You just get out of your tent, you cook your breakfast or your dinner, you get the water, like everything is simple. You go outside the door and you're doing an activity, you're going walking or trekking or climbing or whatever. It's just all there. There's just so much to do. And in terms of the skills you might need in the Alps to walk and trek, it's so well signposted, tells you, this many hours to the next hut and which direction. If there's a junction to decide between, there will generally be a sign telling you which way to go to which place you want to get to. So you quite often navigate less in the Alps than you would certainly in Ireland or the rest of the UK, as a kind of an area that we go to because it's close. So you'll also see people of all ages at the meet and around you. People keep going back for years and years. I know there's people in the room here that have been going back and back and back and back again to the same places and still not climbing the same routes. So it's just an endless supply of holidays. And sorry, there's just people coming into the room. So excuse me.
Fantastic. Take a seat. If you
Coming in. Sorry about that. So yes, and the other side as well is there's good climbing quite close to the campsite. There's a really good school crag, a beginner crag, where you can learn to lead climb if that's what you're looking to do. There's plenty of scrambling. There's plenty of long, big boot mountain routes. There's just so much choice here, so much variety for whatever it is that you're looking to do. And you'll get to, when the last time we did this, the overriding comment of people was, I've never climbed so many high peaks, 4,000 meter peaks. I've never climbed so much high peaks as I did on this trip. And I think that, like I was saying earlier, because you have the access to the lifts, people will go bring their book and take their rest day. So it's a great facility, and it really did encourage people to go high as well. So that was super. So yes, it's for everybody. The other real benefit of meets, it took me a while to cop what a meet actually means. It's where you meet other people, which is really obvious. It's in the name, but a lot of folk don't perceive it to be that. They see it maybe as an elite event for the super duper hard climbers. They see it as beneath them because, thank you very much, I manage my own trips away, so I wouldn't go walking with those people, kind of thing. But actually, when you get there, there's a lot of like-minded people. You make friends that you probably keep and meet. Maybe you only ever meet them in the Alps each year because your club or your group of walkers, they may not be interested in going to the Alps. But certainly there's a core of people that go every year, and then the new 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people that come, they foster them, they bring them in, they chat with them. I go some way as well to finding out where people are at and what their interests are, and trying to network a little bit to put them in touch with one another so you can meet other people and do your own thing within yourself and within your comfort zone. And equally, you can share the knowledge with those that are coming through, the kind of like a mentoring setup, an apprenticeship, which is where a lot of climbers, walkers learn their skills from other people, other experienced people, and they kind of take them under their wing to some degree. You do end up having to have a lot of difficult conversations around, what have you done before? Well, this is what I'm going to do today. I don't think you're up for it, because this is what you need to do. So, it's important that you can do that. But every evening, people are sitting, poring over the maps, poring over the guidebooks, sharing a bit of food together and chatting about, well, what did you see today? What were the conditions like? And what was the snow like? Was it busy? All of that. So you can live, sleep and breathe it 24/7 while you're away. It's just total indulgence on that. We have international mountain guides, so it's a profession. They're very, very well trained. They're extremely experienced. It'll take a long time for people to get to even apply to become a guide to actually becoming a guide. John maybe can talk a bit to this, being a guide. But they are there not just to run their courses, but to provide information and to give feedback on what your plans might be, which is super. And they're there on site. So it's free if you like when you're there. We do have a very special barbecue. I've taken to running them twice because some people just come for a week. So we generally have 2 Saturdays in the week, and I try to run a barbecue on each of them. So, and we've had resident musicians for the last few years. So I'm hoping that those people will reappear and bring their instruments. But that's always good fun. And just to kind of reiterate, we cover our costs on the meet. We're not there to kind of compete with guiding companies. We want just to, primarily from my perspective, is that we want people to go find people to do stuff with, share knowledge, maybe do some training to get to become and work towards becoming independent at whatever they're trying to do while they're in the Alps. So we're not out there to try and take your money. We're out there to try and upskill you, make you independent and so on, and give you some opportunities to meet other people that want to do similar things. So if people want to do a particular route, like we're close to the Matterhorn, for example, or you may have a bucket list of things that you particularly would like to do, and you're not interested in doing a course that we would offer, you want to do a particular route, you're welcome to give me a call at the office and I can give you some direction on how to book a guide if you want to do. Every Alpine area that you go to will have a bureau de guides where you can do just that. So you could choose to go independently and go and arrive there and then go down and say, look, I'd like to do this particular itinerary. But generally, I think people go and do their own thing, or they go and they book a course. But that is there if you need that particular facility to meet whatever your aspiration is. So a typical walking group, you can see they're hot coming up the hill. With all of this amazing, stunning scenery around you. We went sledging today on the scrap of snow up our hill, about a 100-meter run of snow, which you can see the grass growing out of. That is our snow at the moment. It felt like the best snow ever. My kids were delighted. But compared to what you're going to get while you're away, it's a ginormous playground and such beautiful terrain to be moving around on, and variety of what you can climb is endless. So lots of the tracks can be in extremely exposed situations, but still walking. There would be via ferrata in areas that an iron trail way that you can clip and travel along. So I think originally the military used it to get over mountain passes to travel and journey from one place to another. So there'll be kind of ladders and cableways that you can clip and travel along. Not like if you fall, you can slide down, but you're not going to fall entirely down to the bottom. It does require some skill and training to use, but there are a few of those around as well, and you can hire the kits, not just use a couple of slings to do it. And this would be a very typical trail, well marked. You can see it's not difficult to find the track. You're not negotiating your way through boulder fields in general. You can see where you're going and enjoy and look and travel and spend your time enjoying the exercise and the view. And here's some hardened regulars having finished whatever climb. They look like they've climbed up something. They've got way too much climbing gear around them to be walking, so they will have traveled together up a mountain route and summited there in the sunshine. So another part of the meet is an Alpine Hut experience. If you've never stayed in a hut always sounds like such a derogatory name for what you're actually going to turn up to. Hotel would be closer, I think. Yes, there are dormitories with big hut style beds, a platform, but yet they'll have duvets and pillows and a huge menu of a huge dinner on offer and a huge breakfast on offer. So they're definitely worth going to, at least try and get up to one of them for one of the days or evenings. And that just gives you access to an early start onto a peak that's higher again. So it's definitely worth experiencing a hut night. If you are planning to do lots of huts, maybe you want to do a high route and you can join the huts together, a hut to hut, it's worthwhile looking at the membership of Austrian Alpine, where you can get a card to give you cheaper rates in huts. So if any of you are interested in that at some point, just give me a shout in the office there, and either myself or Siobhan can set you up with that. It's about 40 euros, but if you stay in, I think 3 nights in a hut, you'll probably make your money back. If you're going to stay for 5, it will certainly reduce your costs that way. So I was saying there's a strong training ethos. We offer a whole variety of courses, from 5 days to 3-day courses, from 1 day to half-day skills courses. We've a hut-to-hut walk where you would have a 5-day journey from one hut to the next. Depending on what the aspirations are of the group, sometimes we do a couple of nights in a hut, 3 days walking, and come down and then do some day trips. And other times the group want to do a complete hut to hut for the whole journey. So they stay up on their journey and travel from A to B to C to D to E. But again, that sense of journeying in the mountains is a strong, I think, primitive urge in a lot of us, that we want to do that. And that sense of having traveled, you know, this distance. So years ago in college, I remember being in Chamonix for our first Alpine trip, and hearing about the Hout route and this famous route that everyone, and I decided then I was going to ski it. I wasn't that good a skier really at all, but that's what I decided, and it was a few years ago now that we got to do that. And I'm still not a good skier either, but so you know, these little seeds get planted early, but yeah, you can get back to things that you see this year that you're not able for, and go back and do them a few years on with a bit of training. So in the hut to hut, you will be on this, you can see the cable on the left there that can be just used as a hand line, or if, you know, if it's a more exposed longer section, you may choose to clip onto to prevent a slip from becoming a massive fall. But that will be the kind of terrain where there will be some exposure, there will be some aspects that are trickier. But again, you'll be with either, depending on what kind of walk, hut to hut you might do, either with an international mountain leader or a mountain guide, depending on what type of route you would like to do. So there are also then Alpine courses up on the snow for walkers and for climbers and for mountaineers, that grey area in the middle. And realistically in the Alps, I think you're always mountaineers. So when you're up high, you employ climbing and walking aspects to most of your days out. So you can see, I think these are actually 2 students. I don't think this is a guide leading a client, but what you can see there is a rope being shortened to some degree on both of the people there. So if somebody needed a little bit of extra rope, they can both access it to give them, say, more space between an obstacle. They may want a bit more rope out, or they can shorten it up like the guy is doing in hand there. John might comment on the technique, but anyway, we'll kind of move on from that. So we have an intro, an intermediate, and an advanced course. And in some aspects, it's down to the aspirations of the people, but equally down to the ratio. So if you've a walking course, an intro to Alpine walking, you'll have a larger group than if you were going climbing, for example. You would have a 1-to-2 ratio. So that's one aspect of it. The other thing, if there's a group of you, and I can talk through the ratios later, but if there's a group of 3 and you want to do a certain set of things, then we can arrange that as well. So just if the off-the-shelf offerings don't suit what your guys need, then chat to me and we'll see how we can accommodate it whatever best way. So fundamentally, the costing of these is based on the ratio. So you know, all the guides get paid the same, all the, you know, there's no difference in that. It's just literally the ratio of how to cover those costs. So so do chat to us if you're not seeing what you particularly want. So for the climbers, the amount of rock and long ridge routes where you may choose to go on to snow, off snow, do mixed climbing, do just rock climbing, sport climbing. It's just endless. You've just got so much choice, and there's really good guidebooks. You can get them in English if you know, if that's your preferred language, and you can tackle lots of different grades. You can climb sport in the valley, you can boulder, you can just, you know, whatever you really rocks your boats, you can take on in the Alps. I personally, I love the long kind of mountain routes where you're kind of moving between walking, scrambling, rock climbing, abseiling, and you're basically looking at the route and just dealing with the challenges as they present using the skills you have. I love that. So you get a full day and a great sense of achievement when you come back down at the end of the day, because you've been here and you've achieved, you know, this particular route and dealt with the obstacles that it presents. So you can end up in some fantastic situations on very narrow, pinnacly ridges and great exposure. And you can be down in the valley with your shorts and t-shirt on, enjoying the crack with a few other groups of climbers next to you. And learning how to lead climb. A lot of people learn to lead on sport. Way more people learn to lead on sport than on trad. We just don't have a lot of sport climbing in Ireland. So it's a great opportunity to get your lead started and to get used to being at the top of the rope rather than on the rope, and to just get some of the fundamental skills drilled while you're away. But equally, there's plenty of trad climbing if you want it. So it just offers such great opportunity, and people often start climbing while they're in the Alps. They get a taste for it, they give it a go, and they just get hooked. So it's definitely a good opportunity if you're thinking of it. So we've already talked a little bit about this. No, you absolutely don't. Lots of people, they'll just send in their booking form and register and put the name down for a t-shirt and then turn up and make their plans on the back of that. So you don't have to. You can come and you can do your own thing. You can join us partway through. You can come early. You can leave later. Whatever suits you. We'll be there for the duration, and you can join us when it suits. Just as well to just be aware, it's an independent meet. So in terms of your flights, getting there, your accommodation, all of that, I provide information in the information pack so that to help you kind of filter through stuff, but I don't book your accommodation and I don't sort out, because everybody does their own thing. They come at different times and I don't want to get involved in who's booked what for where, and just, no, I'm not. That would be a disaster if I tried to do that. So just to be aware of that, you set up that and get there yourselves. And this is the whole thing, as well as being independent, knowing how to do all of those things and to get yourself there for your course and get your kit together and all of that, so that you can plan your own trips in the future. You kind of know what you need to know. So in terms of equipment for the Alps, for walkers, like, you probably have most of the gear you need in your rucksack. You may choose to get an axe and crampons. You may choose to hire them. Same with boots. You can hire any of the technical gear when you're in the Alps. So if you're flying, that might be an option. If you don't have the kit, just hire it when you get there, and you don't have to carry the extra weight on the plane. But other than that, that may be slightly different to Ireland is, you know, sunglasses, which you may carry in Ireland, but you definitely need to carry when you're in the Alps. There's a lot more glare comes up off the snow. Plenty of things to cover the gaps. So buffs for the neck, caps for your head, plenty of spare gloves, long sleeve thermals with zips to adjust ventilation, to stay covered, and gaiters as well, because you're walking a lot in snow. So are you guys able to see my full email address there? Is it cutting off the screen like it looks on mine?
No, I can see it. Okay.
See it? Okay, okay. It's just mine that's doing it for some reason. It's really
Thanks.
small. Okay, thank you. So yeah, so the Alpine Meet is on the website at the moment as an event, and if you click into it, you'll be able to download or view the booking form. You'll be able to download or view the information pack. I normally have a couple more slides in here showing the area. I can just give you an idea in terms of where you can fly into. So we have Geneva is a wee drive away, Zurich and Bern. There's some like Zermatt, sorry, not, we're close to Zermatt, sorry. So most people would fly into Geneva and either hire a car or get public transport in. But once you're in, you don't really need a lot of transport. There's 18 4,000 meter peaks in the vicinity. So plenty of choice if that's what you're looking for. And there are plenty of tracks and trails if that's what you're looking for in climbing. So I'm going to turn off this PowerPoint and see your faces again. Much nicer. So guys, I'm going to have a quick look in the chat now and see if there's anything going on while I wasn't looking. Nope. Well, been very, very quiet. So fellows, are there any questions? Are we good, so?
So obviously the big thing in all our minds is coronavirus. And do you know yet, have Switzerland given any indication of how they plan on changing things? I presume last year huts weren't open. Do they hope to open them this year, for example?
The answer is always at the moment going to be, I don't know. No one will know. And this is the cloud, I suppose. I would love to think it's going to be fine and we can go at this point, but it's so unsure and it's getting very close to the time. We've just recently had to cancel a few weeks ago now, we cancelled the winter meet because I just knew there was even if they allowed us in the very last minute, it would be too last minute to get set up. It was just unfair to keep people. I think I see a couple of people that were hoping to go and took the disappointment very well, in fairness. But I think it's quite unfair to say, yeah, it's definitely. I can't say it's definitely going to run. So what I've been advising people who've been interested is to send a booking form in to us. Say what it is that you're wanting to do. Don't send us any money just yet. Which I'm loath to say, but anyway, but just to express that interest, so it'll give me an idea of how many staff I need to have in the background and prepped and kind of, again, in the same situation, if we can, we'll go kind of thing. So let me know what you're keen to do, and at least then I can organize groups, I can get the staff aligned, and then have everything in the background ready to go if we are able to go. It's quite a way off yet, but it's a lot of the silver bullet I keep mentioning is not the silver bullet that we thought it was going to be. So there's a chance it's not going to happen still. You know yourselves, it's not possible to say for sure yet, but that's what we've been asking folk to do, is just put in their booking form and express that interest so we can carry on as though it's going to happen, with that proviso if it's possible, if it's permitted. Okay. I hope that answers you, Jerry. Sorry.
I just want to comment a bit there, Jane. The question is just, you mentioned, sorry, my name's John. I'm a mountain guide. I'm not aware of who I am. So I work in the Alps quite a bit. I didn't work there last summer, but just regarding the huts, last summer in Switzerland and Alps wide, actually the huts did end up opening or staying open for the majority of the summer, but with reduced occupancy, and as did the lifts. So, but obviously the biggest issue was the quarantining, people arriving there or coming home, and it was, when the decision was made to cancel the meet, it wasn't looking as if that was going to happen. So, they did open last summer, and they stayed open for a normal season in terms of the lifts. Switzerland is still currently running their ski resorts at the moment, whereas France and Austria aren't. But we all, as we all know now, things change pretty rapidly. There's no way of what happened last summer. There's no way to say that going to happen this summer as well, unfortunately. But I remain hopeful, I think.
Okay, so there's a couple of questions there coming in. Is there an option to do some routes on the Matterhorn? I think that definitely would be one to employ your own guide and chat with them about. It's not something that we would put into a course generally as an itinerary for a course. It's a busy place and obviously a popular place to go. So it's not something that we would put into an itinerary for a course that you would book. But if that is what your aspiration is, I would help you get in touch with the guide to talk directly with them. It could be John or whoever to do that. It would take some amount of planning, I suppose, and the requirements to get into the hut and all of those things. You definitely need support to kind of get that to work out. So just in terms of costs, again, these are also on the booking form, but just to give you an idea. So we mentioned the 5-day hut to hut is $360. The 5-day intro to Alpine mountaineering, it's a 1-to-4 ratio, and that would be at hang on just a second, I'll see if I can put the picture of it up on the screen, because we could be here forever otherwise. Bear with me a sec, guys, and I'll try and put up that page.
And just while you're doing that, Jane,
Thank you.
If you want like a little rough estimate for the Matterhorn, for example, so the Matterhorn is usually done over 2 days. If you go with a private guide, so it's 2 days. You usually start at about €450 a day, and it's 1-to-1 as well, so you can't split that cost with anybody, unfortunately. So it's Swiss guides would be a bit more expensive than that. And then you have to stay in the hut. So the hut itself costs 150 francs a night. It's like the most expensive hut in the Alps. And you generally pay for your guide stay as well. So that's another 300 francs for the night. So it adds up to do the Matterhorn privately. So you want to be very well prepared and acclimatized if you were thinking of investing that to do the Matterhorn. And generally a guide or a guiding agency will want to know sort of prior experience, sort of recent prior experience, or indeed have been out with you prior to attempting the Matterhorn. As a general kind of case.
Thank you. Now I think I can share that. Okay, so I'll just scroll down. So this is just. Are you able to see those clearly? So just to kind of talk you through a little, the 5-day hut to hut, the Alpine courses, then they run on either a 5-day or a 3-day. And you can see for the intro, it's 1-to-4. And then for the intermediate and for the advanced, it's 1-to-2 ratio because of what you're trying to do. So it's restrictive. If you have too many people, you're limited to where you can go and how you can move safely. The other course, so for the intro, you can see the costings there. There's a 5-day bespoke Alpine course that we put on the year before last, and that was as a result of a group particularly wanting to do certain things. But that's always an option. So you can come to us and say, look, this is what we want to do. I see what you've got in your intro course or your intermediate course, but we want a combination of something a bit different. And so that's just a bespoke course. So always when when the group and the guide meet, they always discuss and try and match up aspirations with possibles and try and suit people. But the ratios will dictate a lot of what is possible. But just it's not set in stone, but it will give you a fairly good indicator of what to expect on a course, so that you don't turn up expecting to be climbing the Matterhorn when you're doing a walking course, for example. So that that people aren't mismatched that way. The other thing to talk through a little bit is the workshops that are there. So some of you that go and you're not wanting to do a 5 or 3-day course, But you may want to do some skills courses. You may want to freshen up on glacier crevasse rescue, glacier crossing, those kinds of skills. And you may opt to do a workshop on that, or movement skills for rock climbing if you want a bit of coaching on your, to climb better, for example. And also there would be intro rock climbing. So if you've never tried it before, you want to give it a go. And a learn to lead. It's sport that you would likely be doing there, but there are places you could do trad, learn to lead if you're a sport climber and want to develop that side. And the same with multi-pitch, if you want to learn some of those skills. So those can often be booked at the meet when you get there and someone else has done a course and they say, oh, that was great, let's, and they can be booked at a meet. But equally, you can pick up a lot of those skills from the people that you go and meet when you're there. They'll bring you climbing and they'll kind of look after you a little bit as well. So there's quite a bit of that goes on. So hopefully that answers your question of costs. There's, go back to a bigger screen. Yeah, that's the downside with the chat. The questions roll on so fast. Yeah, so a couple of lads had planned, they'd arranged with a guide to go to do the Matterhorn. I don't think they ended up doing it. I think something stopped them from finishing that out in the end, but that was certainly their plan. They were very ambitious. So for the youth, at the moment, I will say youth is up to 25. However, technically youth is 26. Now, maybe that's because of their last day of being 25 and the first day of being 26. But in my mind, internationally, youth is up to 26. So I kind of honor that for the youth category. I don't have a discount technically for students that are over that age. There is a youth rate. I believe we have a bursary again. It was offered last year, but wasn't realised because we didn't go. So I'm assuming boldly that we have a bursary for youth participants. So all of those courses you see advertised there, some of them will have discount rates for students. So to encourage kind of the next generation of alpinists to try to support them when they normally have no money. They're in college or they don't have a big wage, but equally they may not have any mortgage to pay. But that's not the point. We have to encourage people to be able to go. I think it's really important. So I think like those details will be on the website as well in terms of the discount rates for students in colleges. But please get in touch with me if you're wondering, if you can't find what you're looking for, and chat to me, and I can direct you around then. Okay, any more questions, guys, gals? I'm very quiet this evening, my dears. My goodness. Any bits and pieces, John, you want to?
There's a question just popped up there, Jane, about what you define as advanced or intermediate on the course.
So it can mean many things, I suppose. In summary, on an advanced course, people are maybe looking to climb their own routes, to maybe move on more difficult terrain for them. Where in an intermediate, to my mind, they're stepping out from walking into mountaineering, where so they'd still be mountaineering while walking, but stepping onto ground where they're taking the lead, if you like, on that terrain, but on terrain that they're very comfortable on, that the guide can run rings around them and manage them, and they can practice the skills in a fairly safe setting for them, that they're not challenged beyond comfort, I suppose, and the skills. So they can start to learn the rope skills, they can start to learn to put belays together, and they can practice some of those skills, but in a relatively safe setting, where for the advanced, they'd be working, like they're both groups are working on a 1 to 2. So, each group is going to have a different level of skill. So an intermediate group may actually be well able for what you might do on an advanced course, and vice versa. The advanced group aren't able to do what they normally do and they pare it back. But the nice thing with the 1 to 2 ratio is you could equally have 2 slightly different standards in the one group, and one person can take more of the lead and the other person more of the lead, but learning whilst on being led and so on. So it just gives you a lot of options. If you want to climb, then, and you want to, you are a climber, you've done some rock climbing, you're familiar with the ropes and belaying and so forth, and you've done some alpine walking, you've done some alpine mountaineering, and you want to try and develop, then I would kind of have a good chat with you and direct you to the right course in that regard. So I'm happy to talk with you and see where you're at. Equally, if you've a climbing partner, that's the nice situation, because you've got a good awareness of each other and where you're at, and then you can choose whatever title you want to call that course, but do what you need to do. In essence, you're working on a 1-to-2 ratio, so you've got lots of flexibility. I hope that's answered your question. There is more information in the information pack as well. Do you have videos? Okay, I'm going to open up the information pack as well and see what we describe it as. Chris, that's fine. I won't be offended when you run off at 8 o'clock. That's perfect. After your next Zoom. So just with the 5-day course, is that what you're asking there? Sorry, it's disappeared off the question's gone again. 3-day intro. So where the 5-day courses are actually run over 6 with a rest day allocated, which could be your last day, could be your first day, usually somewhere in the middle. 3-day courses, you're out, if it's possible, you're out every day. So it would be a shorter version of that 5-day course. So you would do some of for an intro course. Disappeared again. Yep. You would look at movement skills. You'd look at using crampons and axes. You'd look at journeying, some navigation, using ropes where you need it, glacier travel, crevasse rescue. There'd be quite a lot of the kind of the textbook skills that you would need as an alpinist would be brought into that. But we try as best we can to not make it too session based, that there's a journey that you're applying those skills, and that maybe on the 3rd day you're doing most of the planning and the design of what you're going to do that day based on what you've been trained. So we're trying to foster that in all aspects, not just bring people out and then bring them on harder stuff, but actually skill them up so they can start to say, right, well, we've got the forecast, we'll get a plan together, this is where we'd like to go, what do you think? And these are the skills, and try to use the skills when you need them. Does that answer your question there, Marina? Yeah, thank you.
It does, thank you.
You're welcome. There's a lot of people on the screen to see who's moving. Yeah, no, you're fine. If you need to head on, it's 2 minutes to 8. So that is when I said I'd finish. That's so are there other questions coming through on the chat, guys, gals? Just as well, while you're maybe there's some questions to come. Just to let you know, there's a lot of new videos on the website. I've been running winter skills courses for the last week, so I'm a bit zoomed out this week. But there are videos there, and there's navigation skills courses that are there that are kind of taught classes. There's plenty of stuff to keep you and help you stay refreshed, I suppose, in your skills. And we've also started our Zooming Around the Mountains next series. So as this is the first actually of the Zooming Around the Mountains series. So there's a whole lecture series on throughout the month, and they're free to members. So yeah, just to keep yourself topped up on Zoom sessions if you've not had enough, they're all there too. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions as yet. You're very quiet, guys. You sure? No more questions there? That's okay. Any other final comments, John, or anybody?
Maybe I can ask about the accommodation, because you were saying it's all up to us. And so then like, let's say we have a tent or then, and we are all based in one camp as a meet. Is that so? That's kind of, but is there a meeting space, like a common room or something, so that we can get together and everything? I don't know how it will look
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
COVID times, but then if we go for the 5-day hut to hut trip or any training, so do we take the tent with us, or do we book huts, or how does it look?
Okay. Yeah, no, it's a really good question. So the campsite that we use is Camping Michabel. They're lovely, lovely people. In past times, they'll give us a section of the campsite that they will allow us to kind of take over, if you like. They do have a shop on site. They do have facilities on site, but the usual things, and they're spotless. They also will do fresh bread, and there's they do other bits and pieces of shop there. There's Wi-Fi there, and there is a meeting place that people will hang out in the evening time for the Wi-Fi, but also to meet other people. And there's some amount of covered space that if it's hammering rain, that you can get under cover for some of it. But equally, I bring a massive tent, so that often is a meeting spot for people. They hang out and cook their dinners and hang out around the campsite when the weather is good and fine and dry. So yes, there's places where you can meet and hang out as well. The campsite have some of these. They're kind of like mini huts. I know, Jer, you've stayed in them.
Yes.
Like a little bothy hut, and that can be a bit more civilized in some ways because you can stand up and walk around in them, but they can get a bit they're quite compact and bijou. But they do have a few of those on the campsite. But equally, if that's not your cup of tea, you've done your camping, thank you very much. There's also hotels just around the valley. But honestly, I would direct people. There's also these the glamorous camping. They have tents already set up with. You've stayed there as well. Am I thinking of the right place? Actually, no, I'm thinking of a different place. My apologies. No, I'm thinking of a different Alpine campsite. But yeah, so they do have some with walls and a roof, and then they'll have the normal camping that you would bring your own things to use.
Just
One, Jeff.
if you are self-catering, be careful, because I remember last time in the same location, one family booked what they thought was a place nearby, and it was actually half an hour's walk away.
Yeah.
So Google that before you book. But they say it was
Yeah.
lovely, but they spent about a half an hour they would get the boss of the campsite every evening to say hi to us and chat, and then have half an hour's walk back home afterwards.
Yeah. So I suppose that being on site, it's kind of worth a lot because you do end up chatting to people. I know last year, when we were in Chamonix, we had a lot of the students on in one campsite, and then the rest of the group up higher in a higher campsite. So it kind of divides a bit the group, and a little bit of missed kind of socializing to some degree. So it is nice if you're on site from that perspective. And some people bring their car and a bike, and whatever, they can travel around that way too. So yeah, Camping Michabel, just to be for a heads up, once this information pack is there and people maybe are starting to reach out, they close for a part of the season. So if you hear nothing back from them, they've not gone. They're just not working at the moment. They're farming as well. But they will see the emails, and when they are up and running, they will respond to you. But I know last time we were there, it was a bit of people were thinking that they'd shut for good because they were getting nothing back for a wee while, but they are there, and they're lovely. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so for the 5-day intro, we generally spend at least one night in a hut as part of the course. If the group decide they want to spend loads of nights in the hut, everyone has to agree to it because obviously there's a cost implication, including the cost of their guide staying in a hut. So just be aware of that, and that if you're in a group of 4 people, not everybody wants to spend more on hut nights. Not everyone can afford to spend more on their hut nights, so just to kind of be aware of that. But generally at least one night you'll get in a hut, so you'll plan your expedition, you go up somewhere high and you go and do a high peak that you've worked towards achieving. But so that's the intro to Alpine. The hut to hut may be from one place to the next, and a lot of campsites will allow you either to drop your tent and leave and not have to pay while you're there, or they will offer you a reduced rate if you're going to be in a hut that night, to leave your tent set up. Depends a lot of the time on how busy. Certainly in Chamonix, if your tent is sitting there empty, you'll pay full, because they could fill your place 10 times over, if you know. So but yeah, so that's worth being aware of. So yeah, someone's asking about booking this year if it's cancelled. So that's why I'm asking people not to send any payment in, because there's a reasonably good chance that we may not get there, to be honest. So rather than take people's money, you know, put it away in a bank account somewhere if you need to start saving, by all means, but don't put it in ours. Just, and if it's cancelled, we will refund if anyone has paid at that point. And it's to do with nothing that you can help. All the terms and conditions are in the booking form, so do have a read of them. Same way if you're booking accommodation, flights, any of those things, check the terms and conditions in relation to being cancelled with COVID as the reason, or that the country you're going to no longer will let you in. And you know, just do that check. If they want a 2-week quarantine and you're going for 2 weeks, that's a bit so you're not going to get anything done while you're there then. So you do need to ask those questions, so do be aware. But yeah, your space won't be lost. There's no upper limit on the number of spaces we have going to the Alps. So certainly we can keep your booking form for the following year if you wish, and put it back into the file again, but you won't lose your place, basically. We just run it until everybody that wants to book has booked. But do please send your booking form in early, so I can get staffing organized and so on early, rather than last minute trying to get a guide when they could, you know, they can be employed 10 times over. They're busy in normal years. Okay, guys. If that is, I don't see any more questions in there. I hope I've answered all of your questions. If I've not, please do get back in touch. I am at the end of the email there. So, and I will. Do you want me to send on the booking form, the info pack? You're happy to go find it on the website. I can put the links into an email either way. That way you'll find it. Okay. We all good?
That was
Okay.
great. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Brilliant, Jane. Well done.
Very
Bye.
good.
Thanks very much. Lovely to see everybody. I can't wait to see you the next time we're in the Alps. We'll say it like that. And I'm going to press stop. Thank you and good night.
Thanks. Bye-bye.